Well, this is refreshing and kind of unusual that we can actually carve out time in our busy schedules to sit down and have a chat together. You've been doing this for quite a while. How many miles in the vehicle, to give an idea, or a time estimate is good too?
A long time, since the early 80s, I guess, mid-80s is when we started this adventure. Being on the road was not a big deal because you could get on the cell phone and you could communicate with people and you could get your work done while you were sitting in traffic. But in today's climate and the way business gets done today, it's a lot less phone-type communication. There's a lot more detail in the information that you have to give people. There's a lot more research. It's a lot more technical. So there's a lot less convenience in the ability to call people back. You can call them back, answer basic questions. We have great support staff inside who's there to help us, and they're kind of the magic to that success, but there's still a limit to what you can get done while you're driving in the car.
You mentioned driving out of DC. What geographic area do you support for the most part?
My typical geographic area and my responsibility is the federal government or complex system stuff. So the majority of my time I'm spending in the DC Beltway area, even up toward Dulles, out toward Gaithersburg and up north of there in the Maryland Technology Corridor. But probably the majority of the time I spend from the Fort Meade area down through the northern Fredericksburg area. For the most part, that's kind of where my normal stomping grounds are for a day.
Have you found changes in our industry, obviously other than traffic, which we both suffer through, but what are the big changes have you seen? Have things gotten easier with technology?
Well, I guess it depends on which side of the conversation you're on. I feel like some things have gotten a lot easier. The technology's helped that with networks and computers and things like that. It gets to be a bit of a challenge, though, to try to get everybody to understand across the board when you're going from a technology that we've had and we've lived with for so long, which is point-to-point wiring in the analog world, on just about every product line that we have, down to plugging stuff into a network that could be around the building, and the topology is a lot different. So from my perspective, technology's helped our industry a lot, but there's also obvious problems in terms of getting from that old analog world up through and to a current IP world. In terms of the technology, it just, it's allowed us to do things a lot easier, a lot simpler, a lot faster. But with the size of the systems sometimes that we deal with, it's difficult for a customer to rip everything out. We call it a forklift upgrade, right? Yep. Where you tear everything out and put everything new. So in terms of technology and stuff like that, it becomes a bit of a challenge for that. So understanding how to get from that original analog technology world up through a digital world, and sometimes more of a phased approach without them losing functionality or keeping the same functionality, and then realizing the enhancements that the technology now offers them. I think you can't really it's not as black and white, or it's not heads or tails in a coin. There's problems and suffrage both ways, but there's so many advantages that if you put them on a piece of paper together, when I'm trying to explain it to customers who have the problem, it ends up that I think there's more pluses with the technology change than there are minuses.
And I would agree. The advantages to the customer have grown enormously in the past 20 years.
Flexibility. I think that, when you had a point-to-point wiring, if you wanted to add something, you had to pull a wire. If it was on the other side of your campus, you had to pull a wire from all the way over there to all the way here. And you had to worry about, is it fiber, is it single mode, multi-mode, is it twisted pair? And, with Ethernet, there's a functional limitation of the copper connectivity there. So, that's the...
And obviously, based on your explanation here, we can tell that your role is in complex systems. Obviously, you've led the charge here in our organization from the analog days to the IP days and been out there on the cutting edge. In that complexity world and in the changing landscape, what aspect these days do you enjoy most about what you do? Obviously, you wear a lot of different hats, and we do a lot of different things as our role in supporting integrators and end users. What do you enjoy the most?
I think the challenge of understanding customers, what they need to do to get from their, where they are today, review their challenges with them in terms of what, whether it's a security issue or is it a connectivity issue or a network issue or whatever it is, trying to understand their needs and help them get from where they are to where they need to be, whether it's an established standard that they have to live by or they're just voluntarily improving and enhancing and making their security better. Those are probably the best thing that I like about the job in terms of understanding the technology, how to apply it to their needs, and that's probably the biggest challenge. It's been everybody's learning. You never stop learning, and people will say, well, sometimes I think people will say, you're an expert at this, and I say, I'm a student at this. I'm not really an expert. I've just taken the time to try to understand things as they are coming around in terms of technology, being upfront with people about what will and won't work for them with experience. In some of the other videos, the guys have mentioned, the ability to go out and do demos and see different sites and things like that. All that stuff is really cool. But in the end, what our job is in that environment is to solve somebody's problem. Whether it's they put something in, it's not working right, or whether it's hey, we really need to enhance the security over here. You're getting to see all those new, interesting places. You're meeting, really interesting people. And in today's world, with everything that you see on the news about terrorism and just the insanity that's going on out there, one of the good things is that you have to feel like we're trying to protect people. We're trying to protect families and things like that, or people in the business world, or people in the government world. So, along with all the good stuff that we've mentioned, it's also doing what you can to try to stay ahead of that challenge and making sure that customers understand. Maybe exposing stuff from other customers and experience that you've seen in other sites and things like that. Going up to a rooftop, pointing a camera out at something and saying, I don't know how the camera's going to perform. Mr. Customer, why don't we take it out and let's try stuff and let's both see what it's going to result, what the results are going to be after we do we look at what your challenge is and we try to fit a piece of equipment to do that.
And I couldn't agree more that it is very rewarding helping a customer solve their problems, and you actually feel good that you're contributing to, again, hopefully making the world a safer place, at least for that facility, for those employees. How do you, what does Steve do on time off to kind of clear the head and refresh and recharge when obviously the complexities get very challenging? How do you recharge?
Well, a couple different things. I've been in the volunteer fire department since I was 16, and that was a big part of my family life for a long time. My father came, joined, and I joined when I was 16. As you know, I've been the chief of the fire department in our local area. Some of the other guys on the team were a part of that as well.
So you're continuing the challenge in your personal life too, which is great.
Right, and again, that's complex stuff because it's always evolving and changing. Training's always is changing, and it's always become a challenge. Matt at the office is a part of that. Joe at the office is a part of that. Tammy at the office and her family's a part of that. And like I said, my dad's a part of that. So it's even outside of the work family, we're still a big family and kind of do that. So I'm not as active as I used to be with that, but I'm still involved in that. I enjoy spending time down at the firehouse with the guys and kind of mentoring, trying to help out with things as the request comes. I like being involved in training the young new, we call them newbies, the new guys, the probationary firefighters, going out to the basic firefighting classes and trying to help those guys become a firefighter and do things safely and do things the right way.
Rewarding also. Yep.
In addition to that, I guess fun times. A couple years ago, we bought a house down at a place called Smith Mountain Lake. One of our other business associates and a very good friend introduced me to Smith Mountain Lake a number of years ago as a vacation spot, and I found a bit of, I call it my little slice of heaven. Smith Mountain Lake's down next to Roanoke, so again, a little bit more drive time to get there, but after a day, going back and forth to DC, the extra couple of hours it takes to get there with the reward at the end, meaning having a great weekend and relaxing and doing stuff. So water sports on the lake is become a new thing for me, and just a very relaxing place down there. It's very quiet, it's very tranquil. You want to go out in the evening on the boat or spend time on the dock, have people over. The neighbors down there in Southern Virginia are very hospitable, so they're great people. And that seems to be, right now, where I would like to go and get away from the traffic in D.C. There's no traffic there. I kind of joke when people visit, I say, you know, you're going to be traveling on some goat trails to get to the house. Just have patience. Eventually you'll have a beautiful view of something other than a side of a mountain or a goat trail. But that's pretty much it for fun.
Well, I can see where the high-tech world that we work in every day and the stressful geographic area that we cover, that going to a place like that is a bit zen and relaxing and clears your head. I can certainly see that.
The funny part of that is when we were looking for the house, trying to find a house where there was no cell coverage, because, you know, the cell phone never stops ringing. But it doesn't work out. I mean, thankfully, you know, the cell is pretty much everywhere, but it's not reliable. The best part, if you really want to get on the phone, is get on the boat, which is a plus, and go about a quarter of a mile off of the dock out in the middle, and the cell phone works just fine, which is perfect. So if I want to talk to, you know, to somebody, I can just get on the boat and go out there. If not, then, you know, I just collect messages, and when I get the time, I'll run out there and return some phone calls.
Well, if you have to have a conference call while you're down there, that's the best place to do it, it sounds like.
Feet propped up on the pontoon boat, you know, it's a great thing. So.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate the time sitting down together. Looking at the time, I think it's time to get back into traffic and go do what we do.
Thanks.
Thanks for sitting down.
No problem. Thank you.